Shalom, everyone. Welcome to this week's Living Torah, and hope you had a great Shavuot. We actually did our, because it was Father's Day, we did our celebration of Shavuot toward the evening of Shabbat. And for Shabbat, I did our Tabernacle experience, which, interesting enough, it lines up with this week's Torah portion. And I actually set up, those of you that have been through the Tabernacle experience, I put it up in my basement, and it's a little crowded, but it worked out really well. And probably the greatest, it was an amazing time. I challenge you to watch or listen to Life on Purpose. We have not recorded that yet, but tomorrow night, Wednesday night, which will be last night for you guys if you're listening on Thursday, I'm going to be talking with Alex Stiles, who Alex is part of our congregation, also a very dear friend, and he went through this. His two boys, his wife, went through this for the first time, and he's going to be giving a little update of the experiences that they had as they walked through, and the teachings and everything that is were involved there. Probably the best thing that happened is afterwards we had a dinner together in honor of Shavuot, and one of his boys, his younger one, Judd is I think 10, something like that, close to it. Sorry, Judd, I don't remember the ages of my own grandchildren, so I'm not going to probably remember yours. But he looked at me and said, Mike, how many times do you do the Tabernacle a year? And I said, well, usually once, for us. And he said, well, I think you ought to do it more. And my grandson Reuben said, yeah, Grandpa, sir, I think you need to do it at least twice. So I probably am going to make a note of that. But I will be doing the Tabernacle experience in the coming weeks and months. I've got on the schedule 3 times, 2 of them during Shavuot or during Sukkot. One at Talking Rock and the other one at Tellico Plains in Tennessee. I have information out for that. It will be on Facebook and various other places. So I could spend a lot of time with that. If anybody out there that would like to, I would love to do this for youth. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on. But if you would like to have me come and set up this tabernacle, a representation of the tabernacle, not a replica, a representation, I'd be glad to do that. Just have to send me an email, text, carrier pigeon, whatever you'd like to do. And it says in Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter 8, verse 1, Yudevave said to Moshe, tell Aaron, when you set up the lamps, the 7 lamps are to cast their light forward in front of the menorah. And this is something I've taught on many times, but I want to give you another little aspect of it that is, in my opinion, is very interesting. So the word here is you're to cast, the menorah is to cast the light forward. Well, the word here is mim vav lamed. All right, let's consider that one. Now, to look at the root of this word is also mem vav lamed, and I think King James, King Jimmy, actually, the translators gave us an interesting hint at this word as they translated it Godward. Oh, wait a minute. So the menorah is to cast its light Godward. Now, if we look at the word itself, mol, it is, you may be thinking about, wait a minute, isn't mol the person that does the circumcision? Yeah, it is. So I'll just leave that one with you because I could go on with that one for a long time. Let you do your own meditating on that one. But the word itself is mim, which is water, Vav, which is the connector, and Lamed, which is about the king or the kingdom. So the menorah is teaching us that the light that we have been given, Yeshua said, I am the light of the world. We see that in Isaiah chapter 11, that it is the so-called seven spirits of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. And so this light that he gives us for our walk is to first of all mark us in a way, but is also to direct us. toward, as again, here's a word that is reminding us of a river and how a river flows down toward something. And so our life is to flow toward the King or toward his kingdom. So I guess the question would be, which way are you paddling? In this river, or you're always, I've watched occasionally and I have a friend of mine that actually does, a few friends that do kayaking, but I've never, no, just not into that. But I've watched them as they go, and you get going there, and some people will start to paddle a little bit and go over to the side and rest a little while, and yeah, we need that, but others will be like, hey, I'm out of here, and they'll get out of the river. All right, we are to continue paddling downstream, not upstream, not going against the current, but going with the current of life that is taking us toward his kingdom. Now, the other thing that has always intrigued me about the tabernacle is found in verse 4, and I'm just going to go to the center of the verse. Following the pattern Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh had shown Moshe. Now, the word pattern here, we could translate that as a vision you beheld. Now, here's another place to go in your scripture later on and read is in Romans chapter 8, verses 1 through 5, but specifically chapter 8, verse 5, that Moshe was shown something in the heavenly realm. He was shown I don't understand the heavenly realm to begin with, and I don't really think that any of us do. It is the only way we can do that is try to bring it down into our realm, which kind of falls apart anyway when we do that, because it is without understanding for our capacity as fallen human beings. So I just kind of look at it as this, that he saw into the heavenly realm. He saw a tabernacle and then was told that you were to build this earthly tabernacle with earthly materials in such a way, the same way as you saw it in that heavenly realm. Now, if you can understand that, you're doing much better than I am. But here's where I want to go this week. And I began this at Life Assembly this past Shabbat. When we talk about the tabernacle, we can either, and this whole concept is about the tabernacle, which then becomes, of course, the David's tent, becomes Solomon's temple. We see the destruction, we see the rebuilding of the second temple. We see then Herod's temple. We're talking today about the third temple. We look in Ezekiel and it talks about a temple. So everything, whether it is going back to the Mishkan, the tabernacle that is revealed to us starting in Exodus chapter 25, or an eternity, a millennium, an eternity, and Ezekiel's temple, we need to understand the difference between the form and the function. Which is more important for us to understand? The answer, in my opinion, is not yes there. Because we can, and this is, I'm not making a statement against anybody's teaching out here, okay? I'm not going there. But we need to understand the basic function of the tabernacle, and then take that through the temple, first temple, second temple, third temple, Ezekiel's temple. Take that same function. The function never changes. For if the function changes, then we can do whatever we want to with the form, and it not have the same meaning. Let me bring it into something that's very simple, okay? Your kitchen. What is the function of a kitchen? Well, it's to cook something, right? Now, it's probable, unless you live in a high rise, that everything is duplicated, or an apartment complex, or something like that. Even with that, I don't think that there's two kitchens on the face of the earth that are exactly the same. Okay, the blueprint may be the same. You may have the cabinets and the refrigerator and all of these things, but then when you start to put the dishes in there, you're going to have different kind of dishes than your neighbor probably. You're going to have different type of utensils. You're going to have different things on the counter, different pictures on the wall. You're going to have different things on top of the cabinets that their only function is to give you something to dust about once a year. But every kitchen is going to be different in its form, but if all we do is focus on the form of the kitchen, you can go hungry. Hey, the function of the kitchen, no matter what it looks like, is to make food so you can put it out there and you can eat it and you can survive. In the end, that's kind of basic. The function of the tabernacle must then hold true. We must understand the function of the tabernacle and then keep this as we go through the temples, even into the millennium and beyond. So in order to understand the function of the tabernacle, we go all the way back to Exodus chapter 25, verses that this page in my scripture is getting really worn out. Exodus chapter 25 says, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can start in verse 1, and it says that so you were to make me a sanctuary so that I may live among them, or dwell among them. I may dwell among you. This is something that goes all the way from Exodus. Actually, it goes back to the garden. It goes all the way back over to Revelation chapter 21 and in eternity. What is the function of the tabernacle and the temple? It was to be a place that the Creator himself could dwell among his people. The priests, however, were to then be upholding that function. So we read here in Numbers, as we do over in Exodus, about the priests. But let's go get away from, for a moment, the garments and the ephod and all of those things. What is the function of the priesthood? We could say it is to minister unto Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Okay, that's good. That's the truth. But there is another function that is to be done by the priest, and that is to minister unto him, unto the Creator, for the people. They are to be the representation of the people. So when a person came with their offering, their sacrifice, their grain offering, whatever offering it was, whether it was a ram or a goat or fine flour, whatever that offering was, they were to then represent the people with that offering, and that offering would then make its way through the tabernacle. It would go from the altar of sacrifice. It would encounter the brazen laver. It would encounter the table of showbread, the menorah, the incense coming forth, and then at Yom Kippur, all of the sacrifices combined are represented by the Yom Kippur sacrifice, which would then, because of the blood that was from the altar of sacrifice, is now sprinkled on the Ark of the Covenant. Everything, remember, it is the Vav. Everything is connected. So the priests are actually ministering on behalf of the people. So when a person came, I want you just follow me here. When a person came to the tabernacle with their sacrifice, and the priest, or on Yom Kippur, the high priest, was to take that sacrifice, and it was to encounter the rest of the tabernacle, then in essence, the person that brought their sacrifice was also encountering every other element of the tabernacle. Let me break it down like this. When the high priest on Yom Kippur brought took the basin and sprinkled the blood on the Ark of the Covenant, he had the ephod, the stones of the 12 tribes. He had also the names of the 12 tribes on his shoulders. So was he not carrying the people into the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies? Were they not going in with him? So how do you get 3 million or so people into a tent, the inner dwelling of a tent that is approximately 15 feet by 15 feet by 15 feet? Well, it is pretty much impossible to put that many people into, actually it is impossible, except for with the concept that I'm putting forth. How do you get that many people into the Kodesh Kodeshim? Is that as the high priest was going in, he was carrying each one of the people into the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies, with him. In the same way that Yeshua, our high priest, carries us in to the heavenly realm tabernacle at the appointed times. I mean, you think about this, that this is a remarkable picture of the high priest doing in the earthly realm what is being done in the heavenly realm. So Yeshua today carries us into the presence of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, our Creator. Now, as the priest would do this on Yom Kippur, would also come back out, in my understanding, and speak the blessing over the people. So what is he doing? He is taking that which is in the Holy of Holies back out and giving it to the people. So here's the circle, that they have brought their sacrifice. It has now been taken into the presence of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. That presence has now been brought back out. It says, this is how you are to put my name upon the people. What his breath, his authority. This is how you are. I don't think I'm going too far out on this one. This is how you are to put my presence upon the people, and they were in turn to take that presence back into their tents. So look at it this way. The tabernacle is a duplicate of the original. The tabernacle in the wilderness, and if the function is right, the temple, first temple, second temple, third temple, Ezekiel's temple, if the function remains the same, then the duplicate, there's a duplicate of the original. The earthly realm is a duplicate of the heavenly realm, and then each one of the individual tents in the camp is to be a duplicate of the original. Think about that one for a moment. So how do we bring this to our own lives today? That our own homes, and by the way, you are the temple, or could we say the tabernacle of the living Elohim. So let's bring it to ourselves, but this would also be for each one of our homes individually, that we, as the tabernacle or temple of the Ruach of Elohim, are to be a duplicate of the original, which I think is what Yeshua said when he told us to pray, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in the heavens." Very simple, actually, when you think about it. But the key is that the function has to remain the same. So when the Word speaks, one more time at this, when the Word tells us that we are the tabernacle or temple of the living Elohim, then we must ask ourselves, is my life patterning the life that is in the heavenly realm? To quote Dick Reuven, Messianic teacher from years back, I don't even know if Dick is still alive. I probably need to check that. But Dick Reuven always would say, when the pattern is right, the glory will fall. So if the glory of Elohim is not in our lives today, it's not his fault. A challenge that I made to folks this past weekend is, after we are in the days after the time of Shavuot, this would be a good time to read the book of Acts. I know there's a lot of detail there of some of the travels of Shaul and various things, but read the book of Acts and ask ourselves this question: is my life patterning what I see in those who were patterning the original? Moving on. So in, let's see, where do I want to go here? I want to go to chapter 8, verse 23, I believe. Yeah, verse 23. Here are instructions, this is a hard right turn, concerning the Levites who reach the age of 25. They're to begin performing their duties, serving in the tent of meeting, and when they reach the age of 50, they are to stop performing the work and not serving longer. They will assist their brothers who are performing their duties in the tent of meeting, but they themselves will not do any of the work. This is what you are to do with the Levites in regard to their duties. Basically what this is saying to me is this: I'm way past my time. Now, I don't see where there is retirement. Somebody asked me the other day, again, we're talking about they were retired. I said, I guess I'm not going to be able to do that, and I don't plan on it anyway. But I'll move on from there. The Levites, okay, those that were doing, what were they doing? They were helping in the ministry to the people. They were helping them. They were instructing them in performing the ministry. Okay, so though I am, that I know of, am not of Levitical bloodline, and I know this is argued on Facebook, but those that are teaching his word are in a way performing the work today of the Levitical priesthood. Now again, that is argued, but One of these days I'm going to put on Facebook, "The sky is blue," and watch people argue about it. Probably not. So, but it says you're to start you start your work at the age 25. I got a little late start on that, so I guess I'm going over a little bit, but I'm kind of way over when it comes to 50. This is one of the areas I get this idea of the rising generation. Not the next generation, but a rising generation, that the priests were to start pouring their lives into those that were being raised up into the priesthood. It is a mentorship that is being done here. The priests never quit doing this. They never retired from mentoring. Now, the trouble that I'm going to kind of wade out into some uncharted territory right now. I don't see a lot of young people wanting to be involved in a job like this, a job description. And I have to ask myself, why? Is it the message? No. Message is good. Is it the form of the message that has been corrupted? Yeah. I mean, when you see out there the backbiting and all of those things that go on, I mean, why would a young person want to say, "Hey, I want to do that"? I don't know. I mean, we need to, congregational leaders need to start asking themselves the questions. Are we raising up a generation, and are we giving are we making this, I remember in specifically in my Assembly of God church, Jim, I mean, he was all over trying to raise up. I mean, he one night he did in the Pentecostal church, of course, they called the young preacher boys. And I always thought that was kind of strange. But he would usually the fifth Sunday or something of a month. A lot of times we would have a fifth Sunday sing, but occasionally he would do a fifth Sunday preach. Okay, and he would look out in the congregation, and he had been seeing young people, young men specifically, that he felt like had something in their life, that God was speaking to them in their life about ministry, and we would actually be given 10 minutes each. I remember the first time that Jim asked me to come and be a part of that. It was a phenomenal thing. But where is that today? Is that even being laid out there? These are questions that I don't have. I'm not trying to give an answer right now. I don't really have the answers at the moment. I'm trying to work through some of those answers, and in order to do that, I'm having to ask some very difficult questions along the way, and maybe you can help in that. And start asking yourself, looking around, and saying, where is the opportunity for young people to begin to step out into the waters, to consider this. Is this something that I want? Because guys, there's coming a time that, I probably not going to be able to do this. Others, I see the teachers getting older, and are we raising up a generation that is walking in our steps, or even wants to walk in our steps? Or do they see that those steps are not really worth walking in? Again, questions that need to be asked. Chapter 9 tells us this is they're celebrating the Passover. This is their first time celebrating the Passover in the wilderness. It says that this is the first month of the second year. And so, I mean, can you imagine that Passover in the wilderness? What was that like? People are gathering together, and if you think about what has happened to this group of people in the last 12 months, 365 days of maybe the most action-packed year. There's been years in my life that have been like, wow, there was a lot happened this year. But compared to what they went through, I mean, 365 days ago, you were in Egypt. You're slaughtering a lamb. You're going from poverty as slaves to wealth as free men. You're going to Mount Sinai. You've built a tabernacle. You've gone through. You've seen the Red Sea split. I mean, the manna's been coming down. It's overwhelming what these people had gone through. And then the direction that we read about here of the cloud. And it says that the cloud was there from, sometimes it was there from morning to evening, and other times it was there for an extended time. And I've always thought that there was probably somebody that was trying to chart it out, And Moses, I know when the cloud's going to move again. Because, if you look at this many days, and then it was followed by this many days, and then we were here for this many days, Moses, it's got to be on this date. Because people are the same, folks. It just is something that happens. But none of us are going to know when the cloud's moving. And we're not going to know the direction. Because if they were there for 40 years, it's evident that they didn't go in one single direction because they couldn't have gone more than a couple steps at a time. Sometimes the cloud kind of, takes a hard left turn or a hard right turn, or maybe, takes you in a circle for a little while. But the point is that we need to move with the cloud. Where is that cloud moving today? Where is that cloud moving for you? Where is that cloud moving for me? This is something I try to be very cognizant of in my life. I was setting up the Tabernacle last week for Life Assembly, and it fits into a corner of my basement when it's taken down. And just a few months ago, if you'd have asked me, I actually was asking myself this. I was looking at the Tabernacle. I walk in the basement and into a room we have, and there it is. And I'm like, why do I have this here? What am I doing? What am I doing with it? I have nothing on the books as far as teaching the Tabernacle. It's just taking up space. But what do I do with it? I don't have anybody that's coming along saying, Mike, could you teach me how to do this? Maybe that's my fault. I don't know. But, and then all of a sudden, right now I have at least 3 times in this year, in the next 3 months, three or 4 months, I think it is, through September, I have 3 different times, maybe more, that I'm going to be doing this. The cloud moved. And I wasn't expecting it. That's happened, I don't know how many times. So this is a teaching I do a lot of times with the Tabernacle. The tradition says that the nails that were holding the post up were only half in the ground and half out of the ground, which is symbolic of the death and resurrection of Messiah, I believe. But the other thing is this. How deep are your tent pegs? I've coined the phrase, keep your tent pegs shallow. Keep them in the ground far enough that they're secure, but not so far that when the cloud moves, you got to get a pickaxe to get that thing out of there and a winch. All right? Keep them in there where they're secure, but not in there to where you can't get them back out, and the cloud is moving and is on the horizon, and you're sitting there trying to figure out how to get this tent peg out of the ground. All right, I'll cry briefly. And this is a teaching I want to go into right now, but it is taught that the Torah actually has 7 books. We have 5 revealed to us, And this is based upon that in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 1, it talks about the 7 pillars of wisdom. And so there are some that believe that the book of Numbers was actually split into 2 books right here. And it is the words, "Arise, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, may your enemies be scattered, let those who hate you flee before you." When it stopped, he said, "Return, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, of the many, many thousands of Israel." So our cry, I mean, this should be part of our cry on a daily basis of, "Arise, O Yah." There's a song on, "Arise, O Yah, let your enemies be scattered." Are you praying today for the land and people of Israel? May the enemies of our land and our family be scattered. May they be brought to nothing. That should be our prayer. But along with that, when it stopped, he said, "Return, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, of the many, or to the many of thousands of Israel." Maybe a good prayer is, "May your enemies be scattered, may they be destroyed, and may you return." I mean, isn't that what we're praying? Your kingdom come? Return unto Israel. And may Israel return unto the land of the covenant. Just as a side note, I'll let you go here on your own. Verses that I call the foreigner's prayer. Isaiah chapter 63, starting in verse 15 through the end of the chapter. The foreigner's prayer. It gives us a prayer for this time, for these days that we are living in. Now, I want to go over to chapter 11, all right? The word here is, "But the people began complaining about the hardships to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh." They began complaining about the hardships? Excuse me. Let's see. Your shoes are not wearing out. Your clothes are not wearing out. You have riches that you did not have in Egypt. You have food that's being freely provided for you 6 days a week. And on the 6th day, it's lasting for the 7th day. You have water that is coming from a rock. You have experienced the presence and power and the shofar of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, witnessed it with your eyes. You have been given from the heavenly realm, you have been given a set of instructions for a life that is going to keep you out of slavery, is going to be for your freedom. You've been given the incredible opportunity and honor of bringing the heavenly realm, tabernacle, into the earthly realm. You are able to look out of the tent door of the door of your tent every day, every night, see a pillar of cloud, a pillar of fire. By the way, the pillar of cloud is probably protecting from the harshness of the sun. Where's the hardships? I'm sorry, I'm just having a hard time seeing where the hard. And by the way, you're being directed by this cloud and pillar of fire to a land that you're going to be given as an inheritance, and you are now called to become the representatives of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh upon this earth. Yeah, I'm having a little trouble here with the word hardships, but they are complaining about the hardships. The word complaining is kind of an interesting one. It's Aleph, Nun, final Nun. If you would, I mean, it doesn't take a lot to figure this word out. Aleph is is strength. Noon is life. Final noon, life. So we could look at this word as a word of, I have given you life and life abundant, life eternal. All right. So how can this word be used for complaining? Well, it's kind of driving us to this, that our attitude and our words are going to bring life. We just have to ask ourselves the question: what are we bringing life into? See, I understand. I used to, I studied at one time a lot of the prosperity doctrines. Blab it and grab it, name it and claim it and frame it, those kind of things. And in the end, there is truth in those words. All right? Now, truth can be perverted, which I personally believe a lot of the prosperity gospel is a perversion of truth, in that it steps over a line in which you become God. Whenever we in prayer begin to tell him what to do, then we are perverting what prayer is. We are manipulating it. When you and I tell him what to do, we have now said we are taking your position as God, which is what Satan did. We read about that in Isaiah chapter 14. So be careful. We need to be careful in our prayers as we do not tell him what to do. He is still God and we are not. It's a good thing to keep in mind. Now, so we can, through our words, though, bring life into our surroundings. What did they do? They were thinking they're bringing life in. Their complaining is about, we want something different. So they're trying to look at their surroundings, what they're dealing with, and bring a different life into it. Our words, our attitudes can bring life into his plan or our plan. And when we're trying to establish our plan, it's going to end up in complaining. Instead of embracing the life that he has given to us, they have a lot to embrace, and instead they're looking around and thinking about cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic when they're rejecting manna. All right. So, but who are the complainers? It says in verse 4, next the mixed crowd, or the mixed multitude that was with them grew greedy for an easier life. This has been taught that this is the foreigners. Okay, this is the Egyptians that are doing all these. The Egyptians, they're the problem all the time. This is, I'm kind of making a little bit of fun, but this is what a lot of the Jewish writings lay out. That it was always those foreigners, those Egyptians, that caused the problems. Well, I kind of beg to differ with that. But I do have to ask a question for those of us that are identify as the foreigner who has joined themselves to Hashem, to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. What am I bringing to the table? Am I bringing blessing, or am I bringing complaining? Am I constantly complaining about how my Jewish brothers and sisters do things, or am I trying to bring life into that? These are just thoughts. These are things for you to consider. What are we bringing into this? But I don't see this as the mixed multitude of Egyptians and Hebrews, but rather those that are seeking him and those that aren't. Those that walked out of Egypt with an anticipation, and those that were like Lot's wife, always looking back. And we're going to read about those people as we get to Korah and various others, always looking back to Egypt. Folks, if you're thinking that the Almighty is going to drag you into his kingdom, and you're looking back the whole time, that's scary. That there are people out there, the once saved, always saved crowd. It's like, well, I kind of I went to the altar and signed my name for fire insurance, but really don't have anything to do with. It's going to be terrible when I get to the kingdom, because all these things I really like in life, I'm not going to be able to do it then, so I'm going to do it now. Don't expect he's going to drag you in or anybody else into his kingdom. No, got to get. So they end up complaining about, they want some meat, right? So he gives them quail. Read the Torah portion. What happens? Well, a bunch of them start dying. In fact, in verse 34, therefore the place was called Graves of Greed, because there they buried the people who were so greedy. Greedy for what? Meat. It wasn't the quail that was the problem. It was their attitude. Always wanting something more. We need to learn the word daenu. I need to learn the word daenu. It would have been enough. If he never did anything else never a single blessing the rest of my life, my attitude should be daenu. For what I have seen and experienced and been blessed with through these years, daenu. It would have been enough. But when you have that attitude, it's kind of like taking Kathy took the boys to the store the other day and gave them instructions. Okay, this is how much you get. But you ever seen a parent or grandparent with a child that's always asking for more? What do you want to do? I did this with our children. I said, don't ask. Okay, you get one thing. Don't ask for anything else. Because if you do, I'm going to take that which I gave you away. I've done that. I was really mean. But when they came through, when they were appreciative of what you'd given them, what do you want to do? Give them more. Where do we get that attitude? From him. So maybe if we appreciate more what he has given to us, that is the key. Which takes us down to the last thing. I've got 2 minutes to do this. Miriam and Aaron. They start criticizing Moshe on account of the Egyptian woman, the Cushite woman. No, it wasn't about that. Had nothing to do with the woman that he had married. It was about them being jealous. They were jealous of their brother. They're the older brother and older sister, and they're jealous because Moshe has got all of this going on, and they're like, hey, we need to be involved at a higher level here and help making the decisions. What is jealousy? It is seeking to raise up ourselves at the expense of bringing someone else down. I've been kind of harsh with my thoughts, with my words regarding the Hebrew roots Messianic movement these days. I've done that on this program and also with Barry and in various places, because I see a lot of jealousy. Instead of trying to raise people up, maybe I'm wrong in this, and if I am, please forgive me, but I see a lot of times it's about bringing people down. Let us not be jealous of others. When the Father raises someone up, let us, if God blesses somebody, how about we rejoice? How would life be different if instead of seeing, when someone is walking in blessing, let us learn to rejoice in that blessing? Because maybe they've been blessed to test us. And maybe our jealousy is keeping our blessings from coming forth. Let's, instead of being jealous and try to bring others down, remember the crabs from last week? Instead of trying to be jealous of others, let's try to push them out of the pot, push them out of the bucket, get others free, and maybe they can help us in our own freedom. Shabbat Shalom. Shavua Tov. Have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem, God willing. See you again next week. Until then, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.